Here we go. It is the season/series finale of Say No More Xenomorph, our weekly wrap-up review of Fox, Disney, Hulu's Alien Earth television series. Tonight we're discussing episode 8, The Real Monsters. I've made my peace with this series. And you know what? I made my peace with this final episode before it even started because I pulled up my Hulu, and as is very helpful, it lists the runtime of the show you're about to watch. And I saw, 47 minutes for a season finale that has at least 3 hours worth of questions to wrap up and answer and plot holes to fill in with industrial grade cement. I just wasn't worried about it because I'm like, there's no way they're even going to try. So I just kind of coasted in, and from the opening scene where we see the dead body of Arthur, and then a xenomorph kneeling down next to it in a close-up shot, and then when it cuts back to the wide, the xenomorph is just gone. I'm like, yep, that's the show I know and love. But I've got Earth's Mightiest Critics here. We're gonna give this show a proper send-off. And we, of course, as always, invite comments and questions and people just jumping in here from the audience, watching along. And we will do our best to keep this show a reasonable length because we are going to talk about episode 8, maybe even squeeze in a bit of a retrospective of the entire season now that it's over. We can look back, not in anger. Okay, maybe a little bit. Yeah. Hey, wait a second. Hold on. Before I introduce my panel, Fading Man, great to have you back, sir.
Hey,
I'm glad
Man.
you can make it. Yep. We'll see what everyone thinks of the show. So I am Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat. We have Katie Glidewell, the blonde in front, or Xeno Blonde as she is this evening. Welcome. Mark the Movie Man Krawcheck of Special Mark Productions and the Spoiler Room Podcast, and Jeff York of the Establishing Shot and Pipeline Artists. Welcome, everybody. Oh, wait, hold on. We got another person for the roster.
Hey,
Jay
Jay.
Vasquez is back. So we got Jay
and the Fading Man back. Happy to see them both.
Right.
Yep,
Very
checking
exciting.
in. He says, I wasn't going to miss this review for anything. LMAO. Well, I'm very curious to see what our virtual guests, well, I guess we're all kind of virtual guests, but our chat guests think of this installment, and if this at all reframes the entire series. Because for me, this didn't change anything about how I saw the preceding 7 episodes. It just cemented. That's the second time I mentioned cement this evening. What's going on? All the problems, the concerns, the questions that I had from episodes 1 and 2, the two-parter that kicked off this series, it just got progressively worse and worse and worse, resulting in a season finale that isn't really a season finale. It's just a lead into another episode that we probably won't get. Well, first of all, this thing hasn't been officially greenlit for season 2. I thought it had been. I guess I got some wrong information last week, but it's still kind of up in the air. And I believe it was either Variety or Forbes, but Noah Hawley gave an interview, and the interviewer had asked him, what happens, are you thinking about season 2? He essentially said, no, not yet. That's a tomorrow problem. And then they said, what happens if you don't get a season 2? And he said, well, the audience, I trust them to be able to fill things in on their own, use their own imagination, which is great. That's what you want to hear from a showrunner who's in charge currently of a beloved, almost half-century-old property. But, here we are. So wait a second. Jay says, I'll cut you off at the past now and just say the season finale was very underwhelming. Let them rip, boys and gals. Okay,
Our work is done here. Our work is done.
Yes, and that was the show, everybody. No, thanks, Jay. I want to read the temperature of the room and find out. The other panelists here. Did you like the episode? Did you hate the episode? Were you indifferent? Where does this fall? Because again, just as it was kind of introducing a couple of new ideas that I thought could really maybe go somewhere, the show's just done. And it's either going to come back in, a couple years' time, by which point I'll probably have to either watch the whole thing again to catch up or watch some kind of a YouTube recap to remember what the hell happened, or it won't come back and it'll be in the dustbin of alien history, right along the follow-up with Alien Covenant, which we never got to finish David's story. So, Mark, let me start with you. What did you make of the finale, episode 8? Oh, uh-oh.
He's drinking already.
I'd expect nothing less.
Well, I am happy how they brought all the threads together and really opened up the alien world and really made you think about all the levels that we've had for all the sequels. It just made everything make more sense now.
How many beers is that, Mark?
No, I
No
kid.
one ever.
I kid. Underwhelming is it is right, Jay. And considering how much this whole season I was waiting for them to win me over, and they were starting to with the Wendy character. But if you focus on anything but kind of the flashy stuff, like look at the monkey, look at the silly monkey, if you actually look past the monkey and actually see what's going on, not a lot makes sense. And in here, it feels like there's an episode missing. It feels like because the way it ended with the big cliffhanger of where they had the Weyland-Yutani strike force surrounded by, the Prodigy forces, and they had been outsmarted, and you're like, okay. And then we cut to this episode. Those guys are gone. I don't know where the Weyland-Yutani other soldiers are. We don't know, because we only have our android buddy left and the brother in one, cage. We have all the kids who survived grouped in another cage. Apparently there's another xenomorph, a baby xenomorph that they're trying to train.
That was the one that came out of Arthur last episode.
Yeah. That's right. Okay. I forgot that one came out of Arthur even. That's oh yeah, that is the one that came out of Arthur. Okay, yeah, that's right, because they caught it with the net. No, it's catching up to me. In any case, though, I mean, that thing now is like grown really quickly. Really quickly, even for an alien, and in the end, I got to it and I'm like, wow, Wendy's being badass in that, and the kids, I'm like, where was this like 3 episodes ago? Because where the parts that I did find interesting were way too little and too late in this series for it to come down to what I thought they were leading up to a lot sooner. And it's more random ideas in this one, unfinished thoughts, plot holes, things that haven't been wrapped up from the start. Suddenly Wendy can control all the synths. I'm like, okay, that's cool that she found this power just now. I mean, it really, I will say, I felt like there's an episode or something missing in this series, because when you look at this, there's a lot of progress from what should be right after the events of the last episode to this one. Some reason it feels like they jumped.
Well, and I'm there with you, Mark, although I'm glad there's not a missing episode, because as we've seen through the entire series, every episode brings half a dozen to 4 dozen new questions that will not be resolved. So yeah, we'll come back to that for sure, because the opening of this episode raised a lot of issues. Okay, Katie, give me some opinions here. Help me out.
So, as an episode, I honestly did not hate it. As a season finale, It's not on a cliffhanger. It's like on a cliff drop, because there's like so many things that, okay, and this is, maybe I missed something. Xenomorphs are not bulletproof. So why in the hell is this xenomorph? I mean, and you can see it. It's not like any of these soldiers have like rubber bullets. So I don't understand what's going on, that none of the bullets are penetrating the big the pet xenomorph that Wendy controls. I do know that this is a xenomorph that does not have human, because it's taken directly from the facehugger. So that is a different kind of breed that we, as far as I understand, that we've never seen, because I know the baby one did come from Arthur. So I don't know if that, but I'm very confused at the fact that every time there is a soldier, which we all know apparently any type of military thing can't shoot for shit. But I mean, come on.
Oh God, they're the worst shots. Sorry.
I
Well, go
mean,
ahead. Yeah.
Well, I do want to come back to that, but just, yeah, we're going to get into some specifics here, but just kind of overall impressions. You said, I love the idea of it falling off the cliff instead of being a cliffhanger.
Yeah, it just fell off the cliff for me. I do like the fact that we got a little a little backstory regarding Boy Cavalier. That I think was one of my favorite parts of the episode.
That was the best. That was the best bit of dialogue in the series.
Yeah. That to me was my favorite part. That to me explained because I always had some questions regarding Adam, so that really opened my eyes to a lot of it. I wasn't necessarily the whole thing with Wendy and her control of basically everything computer and AI and whatnot. That seemed like that was just a matter of time before that was happening. And I am a little also confused why Curly, being a synth, also has a scar on her face, which is human, but that's a whole other thing. But I do like the practical effects regarding the makeup on the cyborg, and damn it, I love Timothy Oliphant more than life itself. I just don't think he can do wrong. I liked him in this. I liked the CGI. I liked everything. There's a little couple of callbacks, to the different Alien movies, even in this one to what is it? There was a lot. I feel like a lot more in Aliens in this one than any of the others, and a little bit of Alien with the things going back and forth, which I feel like they've done in all the episodes, but this one I think more heavily than some of the other ones.
Oh, they did a callback to Alien Earth. When the one security guard got eaten by the plant monster,
yes.
Kind of hoisted up into the air, then the gun starts firing wildly. We saw that in the first episode, the second with the aristocrat apartment.
Yeah.
Oh, that was part of this show. That's unbelievable to think back on. All right, go ahead.
And I like the score, but as far as it being a season finale, I'm like, you'd be freaking kidding me. Like this, no. There's so many dumb things. And again, it's just a cliff drop more than a cliffhanger. It's like, okay, Wile E. Coyote, and we can get into more details later.
All right, and we shall. Jeff, bring us home here.
I think everything everybody said so far is pretty accurate. There's just these gaping holes in between characters. Curly says, I'm the favorite. Well, where was that scene? She wants to be the favorite. We never saw that she proved it. I love the Boy Cavalier backstory. That would have been helpful in episode 3 to give us a little bit of understanding of where he's coming from, because otherwise he just seems like a glib fool rather than supposedly the smartest guy in the planet and telling us some of how he became so successful. What got me more than anything, and about halfway through, I just kind of shrugged and went, well, I'm going to try to appreciate some of the fun of this and some of the decent dialogue. Like, I thought it was interesting, too, speaking of stuff that should have been earlier, when Wendy says, I'm not a person, I'm not a robot, I'm not, it's right. Like, she's not anything right now. Where does she fit in? She's not quite any of these 4 quadrants that she would love to be able to place herself in. So I think she's a little confused even after she made this power grab. But I'll tell you why I sort of just shrugged at about the halfway mark, is I realized that this is now going to be a let's keep the show going kind of finale. Nobody's killed who's of importance. There is this sort of limbo that everybody's left in a cage. Not one of the major characters who is considered a villain. bites the dust here. Although we kill off a lot of poor innocent security people who I don't think deserve their fates. And for Wendy, who's supposed to be so empathetic with these creatures who have been brought in and held prisoner, including her own tribe with the synths, she doesn't seem very sympathetic towards people who are assigned to be protection, which is they're just easy pickings, and there's no mourning for those people. But I just couldn't believe it at the end when they're all sort of in different cells and being tied up and stuff, and they're kind of laughing and almost kind of cute. I mean, a lot of this almost got cute. And then there's other questions that in a different episode I might have gotten much more mad about. Is it I forget her name? Is it Samantha, the other scientist whose husband is
Sylvia,
Lady Sylvia. There's not one but two different attempts to sort of do the old Jason sneaking up on you, point of view of the killer, and then she's not killed. So why do that except to jerk us around? It's unnecessary and twice seems sort of silly. The other thing too is she never once asks about how her husband is. There's not that scene here. I'm wondering what happened to him. Did he get off? Nobody bothers to tell her, which maybe could have turned her into an ally for the synths or something else. Again, the second shot that played here, which we've seen before, is the Morrow sneaking up on Kirsch. Like, he's supposed to be so smart and controlling all this, and yet he doesn't hear anybody ever enter the lab. And then he's willing to crash everything in the lab, all this $1 million of equipment and experiments and, microscope stuff that he's got going on because, well, now we have to have a big macho ass fight and, have a big throwdown and wreck everything that's on a shelf. I don't know. Those things seem silly to me. And I realize that as much as there was a lot of good stuff in this episode and there were some great lines and some bits of dialogue and, maybe even Wendy regretting some of her actions, it's now going to be 3 years before we get the second season, if it comes at all. And nothing was really resolved here. What happened to that big show where the factory showroom examples were going to be trotted out for all the public to see his great experiment? Guess that's in season 2 or whatever the heck it may be. But, you bring things like that up in 4 or 5 episodes. I expect to see them in the first season or something else. You show the planes coming in from the enemy, and I expect them to have something other than just, well, they're here, but we don't know if they're doing anything. It's just little things like that are just bad storytelling that turns it into they don't really want to do a season finale here. They want to create about 8 cliffhangers. But as Katie said, it just drives everything off the cliff because nothing's resolved. There's no ending here whatsoever. No character really pays for any of their sins. And they're all kept around because now we're one big happy family and we want to keep the cast employed. So I shrugged about halfway through and just said, well, let's see how this ends. And it just struck me as like, this is more of a backroom deal more than a writer's room or creator's effort because they want to keep all this going. And so they're not going to conclude anything adequately.
Well, yeah, I mean, and there's a lot in everything that we've all said and kind of our high-level thoughts to break into. Thanks for reminding me about the Morrow sneaking up on Kirsch, because that's another callback that they did, because they did that a few episodes ago where Wendy, again, Kirsch is hunched over in the lab looking, working on something. In that previous episode, he had 2 other people with him, and Wendy just walks right in behind them and nobody notices. We get a replay of that here when Nibs does her, Jason Voorhees drop in on Sylvia. These synths, as we established the first time we saw Wendy as a synth, when she's, again, I keep bringing this up because it's very important. It's the thesis statement of what these beings are. She's on the side of a mountain and she gets called down for lunch or whatever by Dame Sylvia. She drops like 100 feet and lands on this beach and then like darts off. I don't know how something like that is also a ninja. Just the sheer density of whatever is going on, those mechanics in there. But I'll let that go. But let's talk about the rubber bullet moment. There's some other things around here, but I think that's kind of key to understanding a lot of the problems that are in this particular episode in this show overall. Dame Sylvia decides to go visit the grave sites of the children who were sacrificed essentially to create these synths. Why there's a grave site on this compound? I have no idea. But she goes to the headstones in the middle of what is, we have been repeatedly told, is an island-wide lockdown where there's a xenomorph running around. There may be other aliens that have broken containment, but she's just out for a little walk and going to go pay her respects. The xenomorph comes upon her and is about to do its thing when all of a sudden it gets popped in the front of the dome, but the security guards were coming up behind. The angles don't make any sense. It's like the Zapruder film. But here's my question. In every other encounter that we've seen where this alien comes upon security forces, it lets loose. It eviscerates everything in sight. But this time, because script, it runs away into the jungle.
I know what they're... Well, this is the full alien. I was going to say they could be alluding to the fact that the alien came from her husband and they're trying to connect, but that was the baby alien. Yeah. So it's not the full alien. Again, I got my aliens crossed for some of this, but
I know. And there hasn't been established, although that'd be kind of interesting. They haven't established that there's no like personality or ghost remnants of the person that gave birth to the alien before. So, that doesn't work in this context. But I like where you're going because that's at least an idea and something you can play around with here. And that
idea. I've never thought of it's like wherever the alien is when
it came from like a residual memory of some
sort of essence of that being in it. It's like
that's
different.
And you know what would have been really cool to explore that in? The eyeball. Which we've been told since episode 2, 3, that it's very intelligent and that it jumps from creature to creature. And boy wants nothing more than to put it inside a human being. He's been talking about that since like halfway through this damn show. And at the end of the first season, and again, we might never find out the resolution of this. We see it hop into the body of Arthur. And from a wide shot, Arthur just kind of like sits up like a zombie. And that's it. Never mind the fact that for some reason, again, in a fully contained lockdown compound, he was able to get out of a highly secure lab out to the beach and find Arthur. Never mind the fact that this same facility, the big xenomorph actually goes inside the facility up like a drain pipe.
Yeah.
Forget about that. The other thing is there's so many dead bodies of security forces and personnel that were completely missing from this facility up until about 3 episodes ago. But this alien was probably tripping over bodies it could have gone into. Why the crab-eaten, musty, half-rotted corpse of this guy on the beach that he would have just happened to have... This compound is huge, but it's just like, oh, look, there's a guy. It's the same way that the baby xenomorph...
He's going all the way to the outer edge to get that body.
Well, and technically,
the outer limits, as it were.
Arthur is probably one of the only bodies that is completely intact because, I mean, the xenomorph has like, as you've seen, and has like, there's like front halves, there's lower halves. There's not a lot of like ones that can actually like get up and walk because they're all like torn apart. So
you know what, that eyeball could have gone to somebody who was in the facility and just gotten into him that way, you know.
Any soldier, pick a soldier.
Exactly, pick a soldier, just like you pick the cat, pick the sheep. There's no reason they have to reanimate somebody when there's other bodies right within 10 feet of you, probably.
Yeah, but I feel like all those soldiers are about to die anyway. I mean, the fact that either Boy Cavalier or, well, I guess it was Boy Cavalier, set up the whole, like, again, alien thing, leaving the door open for the sheep so that the eye would come out and then attack Joe because... That's the one way. It's like he didn't necessarily kill Joe, so Wendy couldn't be mad, but the eyeball alien did. So that's a kind of a win-win because he can talk to the alien, and Wendy won't have to be angry with him. I feel like if the alien, I don't know, it's like all of those soldiers. I mean, it's at the end of the episode. Is any one of those soldiers still alive? Because the last 4 died, and I feel like those are the last 4. On the entire island.
There's one left because Curly conked the one guy, knocked him out.
That's right. And
so
where did he go?
He's probably in one of the cells somewhere. I don't know if we actually show. He's probably still unconscious. It was probably one of those shots where it's circling around endlessly around the cage. He's probably slumped over in a corner somewhere. I want to talk briefly about alien communication. It's been established that Wendy can talk to the Xenomorph and speak its language and get it to do things for it, including, hey, go find Boy Cavalier and trap him. Don't kill him. We got plans. I understand being able to speak a language to a creature. What would have been interesting is wouldn't you be freaked out if a mosquito landed on you, or Mark, in your case, a hornet landed on your arm and suddenly started speaking English to you in a way that you could understand and trying to give you orders? Or would you be like, get away from me? What is going on here? But no, the Xenomorph, which we don't know we know it can speak and understand a language, or at least Wendy can get on its wavelength. We don't know how intelligent it is. We've understood these things to be kind of drones from the other movies and kind of source material, but usually they're in service of a queen. So why would it take orders from Wendy? Mark, to the Hornet example, it could land in your arm and say, hey, Mark, I'm your queen. I'm your mom, your leader. Go do my bidding. And she'd still be like, get off of me.
See, and you could go maybe with the imprint angle, but that wouldn't fit the behavior of the aliens from the 7 other films going on, of when they popped out of the chest and they saw their first person. They didn't just imprint on it. Now granted, they could play the angle of that they detected that she was a synth, and so they maybe didn't go after her. And there's a lot of, that's the thing. And that is what has been frustrating with this entire series, is that there's some interesting ideas that they could go places, and it is afraid to go anywhere. It is afraid to put the eye in her brother. It's afraid to put the eye in Sylvia. Could you imagine if you would have put the eye in Sylvia? That would have made more sense in many cases. They're afraid to kill pretty much anyone. I was surprised they killed one of the kids in the previous, episode 1 or 2 back.
No, it was Isaac. Yeah.
Isaac, right. But I was impressed that they're afraid.
Wendy, by the way, Wendy was wrong about that in this episode. She said that they can't be beaten. Well, Isaac was eaten by the aliens. So again, she doesn't know all that she thinks she knows, which somebody should have called her on. But she should also
know that. Yeah,
she should also know that. But at least somebody could have called her on that. Like, that would be the opportunity for Curly to say, see, I'm as smart as you, or maybe smarter. I'm the favorite. But Curly ends up being sort of inconsequential even here. A wasted foil there, as well as, to your point, a wasted opportunity. If the eye is this intelligent creature, which we know it is, it makes a sheep just into, this, sort of Iago kind of villain. Why not go for somebody who's alive and smart? They did that in the one episode where they showed the flashback where he goes in the engineer. And so that would have made much more sense here. But again, there's a feeling of timidity in a lot of this. And I know that some people will say, well, these shows are supposed to be fluid and, they're continuing chapters and it'll come back. But, it's at least going to be a couple years, and you have to have endings in a show's cycle, no matter what kind of show you've created. There are sort of, I don't know what call them, rules or respect for an audience, but conclude some things here. Don't leave everything hanging, as Katie said. There's so many cliffhangers here. 1 or 2, 3 maybe, but everything is here, and they pull their punches constantly. Nobody's killed, nobody's endangered, really. You think, okay, Boy Cavalier, he's the villain of the piece, he's going to be killed, and yet he's just tied up in a funny way, and he's smiling, and it's like, oh, he's too good of a villain, we need him around for the 2nd season. Is that why he's staying alive? Because if that's the reason, then it becomes not about really science fiction or the storytelling. It becomes about calculating, and I think it's a little studio-ish, if you will.
All right.
Go ahead.
Real quick, Mark, I want to pull over because we've got a bunch of comments, but there's 2 I want to address by the Fading Man right here. First of all, do you ever get sick of being a Debbie Downer? I assume
laughing.
I assume that's for the collective panel, and I'm going to speak for all of us and say no. Fading
yes,
Man,
and Reading Man
No,
is correct. She did speak when it was born, and that could be why it imprinted on her. But that's the only reason I could see why, because every other birth of every other xenomorph, they see a human, they go after it.
But every other xenomorph has been part human. And that was the thing, that this is a xenomorph that hasn't been incubated inside a human. It came directly from the face hugger. So that is a major factor that makes it completely different than the majority of xenomorphs. We've seen it from the creators that turned into and then we've seen it from humans. So this is one that has no human integration in it whatsoever, other than
this is the thing that came from the lung, right?
Right.
Huh?
Yeah, this is the one that came from the
it came from the
this
lung.
is the one that came from the lung.
Yeah.
I slept.
But
through
also,
that
if
then.
Wendy's
My
a
bad.
synth, she doesn't have the human sort of physiology.
Well, that's an interesting angle too, because as we've established, these things aren't they don't tend to hatch near synths. They don't have that. They can recognize organic life. But my point, when I want to raise, Fading Man, it's an interesting argument. Again, something that you could have delved into in this show. Even though she can speak its language when it hatches, how does it know its own language when it hatches? It hasn't been socialized around other xenomorphs. It's just making noises, and she's making noises. If it was a mature xenomorph or a queen that she had encountered, like in a nest somewhere, I don't know how she can interpret this language. How complex is it? Is it go kill, or is it, it's really unfair, the position you've been in and these corporate interests. Yes, right. I don't know if it's having philosophical
Isn't life
discussions.
Itself a cage?
Yeah. There you go. So yeah, it's just it all just raises more problems.
And isn't this the xenomorph with Wendy? Doesn't it like screech out more than any xenomorphs that we've seen in previous films and even in the series? Like, when it's you see it in the jungle, like doing this like call out in the wild, and I'm like, who are you calling to Wendy and stuff like that? But I mean, she was able to do the and it like through stone, cement, metal, and whatever, it went through the pipe and hurt her. I don't even understand that.
I'll tell you exactly how they're going to explain that away, because late in the episode, Wendy explains that, I think it's in relation to Adam, the synth bodyguard or something, that she can control. She has these seemingly psychic abilities because she can channel her powers through Wi-Fi. And the entire island is kind of like wired. So it's like Bluetooth on crack. But to your point, unless she's broadcasting this again from deep within the compound, calling to the alien out in the jungle, unless this sound is coming over a hypersonic frequency or being blasted through the speakers that are all over the island, I don't know. It just, again, that would be really interesting if she started calling out and all of a sudden you see all these like sound systems blaring like or whatever, like, oh shit, something's coming. But yeah, all right.
But it doesn't show you that's the whole thing. If these ideas, you're presenting something in a visual medium, and I don't need my hand held, but I do need some cues or something to let me know that you understand what you're doing. And we don't get that. We haven't gotten that through this entire series. I'm all for being left up to you kind of figuring it out. But in this one, all you needed was not even a 5-second shot of a speaker when she's making the noise. So you could hear it over the speaker. So, okay, she's control of this whole island and she's communicating to the alien through a speaker, not through wall concrete, as you say, especially considering how quiet she's doing it.
Well, and on top of that, well, not on top of that, in addition to that, I went back just before we got on and I rewatched the last couple of minutes of episode 7 because I was looking for something specific in relation to Nibs, which I'll talk about in a second. But after everything that happens on the dock goes down, it cuts to a POV shot from the jungle of the alien watching the dock, and then it kind of like snarls and turns and goes back into the jungle, implying that it watched everything that happened. And as we've established, these things do not have eyes. They see through other methods, but it just, again, Hawley and his team do not understand the universe they're playing around in. But I want to get back to that dock scene. At the end of that episode, after Nibs has gone completely insane and starts ripping off jaws and throwing people into the water, Joe takes out the stun gun and electrocutes her, and she ends up in a twitching kind of pile on the dock, and her eyes are fluttering, and she's a complete wreck. Cut to the opening of this episode, which I'll give you, maybe it takes place an hour later after that dock scene. I'm going to be very generous and say it's been an hour. She's fine. She's had a new change of clothes. She doesn't have a hair out of place. She's not twitchy. She's just back to her old self again. And as we established in the previous episode, which I know is not an excuse because nobody on this show watches or reads their own material, they, according to Kirsch, they haven't gotten reboot and regen up and working yet. So how did she get to be fine? Don't know. Don't care.
That's why I'm saying is there seemed to be like an episode missing in here, because you don't see what happens to the army that was absconded, that was traveling with our android buddy. We don't see how she gets back to normal. We don't even see why they're suddenly caging Curly when Curly didn't run away. She hung out with Sylvia. There is so much missing from the second last episode to this one that you're like, how did we get here from there? It feels like there's missing an episode, or like they cut something out.
And I agree, Mark, but the problem is it's also quite possible that they're just being consistent with the rest of the series, because we've had these consistency problems where there will be major plot holes from one scene to the next. So it's not like, oh, I don't understand why this is missing. It's just of a piece. They're not paying attention to their own stuff. Sorry, Katie, go ahead.
You guys, I think we're really missing what the showrunner, Noah Hawley, mentioned in that interview, is that we need to use our imagination. And personally, I think a herd of unicorns picked them up at the dock, turned into Pegasus wings, then flew them into the building and dropped them off. And there was no fights. There was no ruckus. Because, Wendy could kick everybody's ass. But you know what? She's all good. Because obviously she took something, and it's like, that's my imagination working. That's what I'm thinking happened.
And you know what, Katie? What I love about that is it also ties back into Blade Runner, which is what the show wants to be. The giant unicorns.
I know that we seem nitty here, and that we've been accused of that for the last 4 or 5 episodes. But
badge of honor. I'm wearing that as a badge of honor.
And I'm going to say this to everybody who's watching the show. Again, and you've said it, all of you, but you have, as a writer, to, when you bring up things that need to be explained or they feel inconsistent, you owe the audience, you owe the script, you owe the project a little bit more logic. Now, even if this is sci-fi, and sci-fi generally has a lot more logic than most fiction, because they have to play with science and they have to play with physics and this world they set up, and then you respect those rules. But there's so many instances of this where they just don't follow the rules, and it's very frustrating. And I said I kind of gave up halfway through this. What I was reminded of too is I was sort of laughing at some of the sort of things that just now seem almost funny because they weren't going to conclude anything, and suddenly we're kind of laughing at Boy Cavalier when he's been painted it so black most of the series. But it reminded me of the last 3 or 4 seasons of Seinfeld, where they'd have 3 different stories going on, and they go off in these different directions, and you don't know how they're going to come together, and then they come together. And any screenwriting, whether it's a murder mystery, imagine if Agatha Christie threw all this stuff out well, wait a minute, you never showed me that scene. That was the first rule she said. When you write a mystery, and there's a certain amount of mystery to this, you have to be and play fair with the audience. You can't have something happen off screen, because otherwise they can't play along and get it. Hawley did a better job, I think, with Fargo, where there was, these weird threads of stories coming together. Here, he's maybe doubled the amount of storylines, but it's freakishly weird how few of them come together, and I don't know why that is. I think, if anything, sci-fi needs that discipline, and especially this franchise, which does have 40 years of established rules, whether it's how fast an alien grows outside once its chest burst, or how it communicates, to your point, where's the system that this thing would automatically be knowing how to talk. Even if you're bringing in other creatures, I just think it's extraordinary that we have these 5 different sets of creatures here, and they have very little interaction. They don't have to even seem to acknowledge one another. They're all hostile. I mean, even Joe said at one point, they're predators. It's like, yeah, duh, Wendy. That's kind of that's a top line thing that you kind of missed, but they're all just hostile, and yet that to me is a little boring too, because I think there could have been an opportunity. Like, what if the eyeball in that sheep just started talking to Cavalier? I wish you could talk. Wouldn't it be cool if he did talk then? And so the goat is talking perfectly, John Gielgud English. That would blow your mind. That's even better than the unicorns. But I mean, they could have gotten away with that here. Like, oh, you've always wanted somebody in the room who's really smart as you, and you could have a conversation with. Well, here it is. It's the eyeball, and he's going to talk to the goat.
Well, it goes back to what we mentioned earlier when they talked about the alien species and how we wasted an entire episode on a ship to find out what happened on a ship when we didn't need that, because we figured it all in episode 1. We didn't need episode 3 to recount the entire thing. But you could have easily, and it was alluded to, and they were afraid to do anything with it, that the eye, we established the eye as the most intelligent of their specimens that they grabbed outside of, say, a xenomorph. But we saw the eye actually use an ability to call a xenomorph back when it was on the ship and with the ship episode, right? So they missed an opportunity where you could have had this happen earlier, to where our synth kids finally band together, say, we've had enough of this BS, we're going against here. Then you have the aliens being coordinated by the eye alien to where he interacts with the other 5 prey aliens, including the xenomorph, to get them to go against the humans. And then you got Boy Cavalier and his group. There is that. I think one of the Jay mentions it there. We open this episode with, there's 3 types of 3 types of new humans that are, which one's going to rule? The synths, the androids, and
the opening of the series,
the opening of the series, literally opened of the series.
Right,
they could have just played with that to where you had this one group of androids, led by Mar, an android group. You have synth scientists. We have our hybrids. You could have had these 3 groups going against each other in a chess type thing, using the, and throwing a complication, and all that works is the prey who are being coordinated by the eye alien. I mean, there are so many interesting things that they left by the wayside. And
to that point, Mark, Wendy shuts down the one machine, the sort of enforcer. Yeah. Why doesn't she shut down Kirsch? Instead, he's got to be taken out through the most cornball of mano-a-mano plots, which I think he would almost object to on the face of it, knowing that he's had kind of the beat on the whole operation and been in charge since the beginning. Why even endanger that, his back is broken? Why would you ever, as soon as you've thrown into the first bookcase, I think you'd stop and say, okay, I'm going to do something else here. Maybe I'll use my intelligence, which I've used in every other episode. But, the other thing too is, like, if the eyeball, if the idea was it goes into a smart person because they're already intelligent, then what if the eyeball went into Sylvia and then started talking and maybe convincing the synth, as she comforted Curly when she was that way, to let her do some actions here that maybe are also thinking outside the box and not just about, like, well, let's destroy our captors. What if it was a way like, hey, we want to take over this planet, but we're going to need to use these people because all they have to do is drop a bomb on us, we're gone. I mean, I'm just thinking for even that's where the second season could be teed up to go, like, wait a minute. So this eyeball has created its own competitor for those competing factions that you just said, Mark. And I'm just thinking this off of what you just said. Why didn't somebody think a lot more about this property, do such out of the box thinking?
Katie, go ahead.
Yes. We keep talking about how, I know that Boy Cavalier wants the eyeball to talk and all that stuff. But let's be honest, there are appliances that have dogs saying, I want this and all that stuff with little things that they can step on. This is supposed to be in the future. He's a boy who at 6 made an android that took out his dad. It's like, did no one think of doing that? You don't actually have to hear a voice. The thing can talk. He can learn. I'm sure it could learn language quite easily. But the fact that that was never an option, like, honestly, that thing, it's like, for as smart as you are, that's a really dumb thing that you didn't go to that immediately.
Or that you're running through the hallway saying, $1 million to whoever can protect me. Really? You don't have the backup people? What happened to all those soldiers who overwhelmed the people on the pier? Are they all gone? Every last one of them?
That's what I mean, is what happened to all the other
soldiers? No one mourns those people and their families. I mean, come on. That's
it's all red shirts. There's a bunch of red shirts. This is all Star Trek.
Well, they're not even that bright of a soldier, because when a creature that's hanging from the ceiling grabs your buddy and starts to try to munch it, rather than shoot the thing at the top where it's connected to the ceiling to bring it down so you can help, he doesn't shoot. It's like, I'm like sitting there with that one
shoot straight.
Well, I'm
your buddy's gone.
I hate to
I like the aliens, but these soldiers are the worst soldiers.
Well,
in the history of soldiers.
we don't know that they're soldiers. They're security.
So we're security.
Not sure.
Okay.
And they compared to the scientists in episode 4?
Yeah,
5. The Maginot episode. Yeah. Well, but Mark, I hate to defend anything about this show, but I will say it was very dark in that lab, and this creature was kind of blending into the walls, and it happened very quickly. So trying to get a bead on something that you've never seen before that is possibly eating one of your friends in a split second, that's a very tricky proposition. But
Mark,
there is
also
also
waiting for him to start singing "I'm a Mean Green Mother from Outer Space."
Yeah.
And I kept thinking about Jeepers Creepers, the monster that kind of came down and like enveloped people and drank their blood. It's all very derivative. But as far as Boy Cavalier talking to this eyeball, he's had this thing in the lab for quite a while. And he also has at his disposal, or at least he did until he pissed her off, Wendy, who can communicate with xenomorphs, and I'm sure is smart enough to figure out how to talk to a damn eyeball, even if it was interpreting sheep grunts or something. Or I don't know what the rules of this thing are. Did it ever try and bond with a synth, or does it just instinctively know, kind of like the xenomorphs, what is organic matter and what is not?
It's never tried actually connecting with a synth. It's always been a human or organic thing.
Yeah, and it didn't seem it connected with an android or the cyborg either, because even on the ship, it didn't try and do anything with the guy who's with Weyland Yutani.
Right. Well, I would just think if you're a scientist or you're running a science lab, one of the things you would do, instead of just having, because what does the sheep eyeball creature do for like 3 episodes? It sits in a glass cage and like looks at people. Where are the folks trying to hook up electrodes or something to
there were electrodes on the head of the sheep. So
yeah, but we didn't see them doing anything with that. Right?
True.
Was it like, oh, we've been running tests, sir, and we still can't penetrate it. We're going to have to go into a live specimen if you want to talk to it, but we can't because that's horrifying. Thank you for reminding me of that, Mark. I was thinking more of the literal, like the cables going into it, but we do see the little kind of eyelets around the scalp. But again, there's no payoff. There's no next level to this story. This whole show is what's the next step.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the thing about Kirsch versus Morrow all season, we've kind of been talking about it, but a lot of the online chatter has been just worshiping the ground that Kirsch walks on. And I'm convinced that is largely because of Timothy Olyphant. I don't want to take anything away from him because I love him as an actor too, but you put a no-name actor in this role, could also do what Timothy Olyphant is doing as an actor here, because he's not called upon to do much. It just looks like he's doing a lot because it's Timothy Olyphant. But in terms of the character, everyone's like, oh, he's got the master plan. He's cooking something up. It's all going to be revealed that he's manipulating everything. Or the eyeball is manipulating everything. So we get to the final episode and Kirsch just gets taken out like a punk. And on top of that, he has the perfect opportunity to kill Morrow, but he doesn't. He puts him in a damn sleeper hold. I've heard people say, well, the androids, it's been established in the alien universe, they can't kill. Those are Weyland-Yutani androids.
Yeah.
Those are not the ones that were created by Boy Cavalier, whose first act in creating android life was to make one that would kill his own father. So explain to me why Kirsch put Morrow in a sleeper hold instead of just snapping his neck.
And something Fading Man said, no, I love that he came up with new aliens. I just think they're wasted in this film as well. We barely get to see them. And when we do see them, it's like you said, in lower, usually, lower light quality. We got to see the flies a little bit, but again, it's trying to do too much. This series really just could not pick a specific idea and just focus on it, and it wanted to focus on all the ideas. And I think if they tried to at least focus on one, I mean, Boy Cavalier is a guy who I don't see above grabbing your, pardon my description, but your house cleaner and throwing them in the cage with the sheep to attach so he could talk to him, because he even mentions that's why they want to try to get her brother attached, because he wanted someone weak, because he was afraid that if the eye got into someone strong, it would overtake him. Here's an even better cliffhanger thing. Eyeball crosses paths with Boy Cavalier and pops into Boy Cavalier at the end of the episode.
I mean, that would have been something. But again, the idea that Boy Cavalier wants the eyeball to inhabit someone weak because of your concern, that's inconsistent with his character. Because
but he mentions that. I mean,
well, I know, but I'm saying it's a problem, because this is the guy who created 5 synths with children's personalities that have the ability to take over all technology, to crush human skulls. He can shut them down or mind wipe them when he wants to or when he thinks about it. And he's also come up with a containment unit in his facility that can't actually contain these things, also self-admitted. So he's like, but I don't want to put the eyeball in something because it might overpower me. What's going on here? He had the security guard right there the entire time. The one who eventually went in to have that little tete-a-tete with the synths. That would have been a perfect person. We still don't know if, because we've kind of alluded to it here in this conversation, if the eyeball pops into a human being, whether or not that human being, if that personality is retained. We don't know. It might be using, say, Arthur's voice, but we don't know if it's got access to his memories or any other, even if it's a live person, we don't know if it can tap into their memories and feelings and thoughts, or if it's literally just, hey, I can use the arms and, oh, here's some vocal cords and now I can hear. Or does this thing have its own personality? Or does it retain something of the aura of, it's like a space vampire of everything that it's killed in the past? All great questions that we are going to, those of us who care to stick around, and I can't say I'm one of them, we're going to have to wait 2 years, 3 years to find out.
This, at almost every step of this show, they do so many things in a clever way, or certainly well-produced way. It looks good. The special effects are quite good here for television, that's for certain. But there's those moments where you're at a crossroads and you're like, okay, do we spend an episode showing how everybody off of the original ship was thwarted? And that's where we reveal the only real thing that's important in that episode is that Cavalier hooked up the sabotage. Great. But wouldn't it have been more interesting with, rather than all that, because you could have gotten that from some sort of tape that they played back or somehow had a hold of, to show them using that episode to show how they found out what the 5 species were, and then give a little backstory on what they do and why they were wanted. And then you get into the negotiation scene where, Cavalier puts his feet up on the table with such hubris. And rather than it all being about gamesmanship and who's going to pay much and how much and this, that, and the other thing, it becomes about, here's why you've made a mistake if you've taken them, because I did the research on this thing and this is what it does. And you're setting this up as like, these are, to me, to your plot, your point, Mark, about the plot of this is we've taken 5 alien species back. And what do they do? And how do they work? and how do they work with us, and are they hostile? What are their skill sets? Why do we want them in the first place? We just didn't stumble upon them. We went out seeking them. What does the end to that mean? Where's that story? That's the story of this. And it also then feeds into the name, Alien Earth. These aliens are being brought to Earth. It's not just about the Xenomorph anymore. And after 40 years of it, I dare say, I think that would be great, because doing the Xenomorph isn't enough. It hasn't been enough for the last 30 years because they introduced the Predator into the alien world. So I just see these things being done by people who, oh, I'd love to have a chance at this franchise. I loved Alien and Aliens, as opposed to, gosh, I've watched this for 40 years. We have to find something else to do. You know what the best idea is? All these other aliens. What's the story there? And I mean, we don't even get the Venus flytrap really developed until the last 20 minutes of this episode. The final, it's like, what? You've got a major alien that you brought back and we know nothing about it except it's here to basically chomp the one good guard that we seem to have some connection to. It's bad storytelling.
I think the climax of this show should have been like the convenience store scene towards the end of The Mist. Where they go in, they think they're going on like a supply run or something. In this case, it could just be, like leaving Prodigy or trying to get out of the facility, out to the safety of the open beach. But they have to fight their way through this macabre series of nests of different creatures and different species, all like perhaps fighting each other, perhaps feasting on people, just nests and little critters running everywhere, just destroying everything. And how do they make it out of there? And finding out that, these synths, they are not invincible. But in order to make that count, you could go the aliens route. I mean, that whole climax where the Marines that we've kind of grown to love, they start like getting ambushed and eaten, or they sacrifice themselves with, Vasquez and Gorman in that tunnel with the grenade, and you always wear an asshole, Gorman. I still get chills thinking about that scene because of that one shot where he pops the thing and they both put their hand over it together and they kind of have that look. It's like, wow, there's nothing in that series that touches this. And as I mentioned last week, you take a movie like The Usual Suspects, which is a very complicated movie I think it's 2 hours long, maybe 145 if that. All of the interweaving storylines and the deceptions and that cast of colorful characters that by the end of it, you're like, oh my God, it's coming together in this action-packed, exciting climax. And then there's the mind screw of the revelation of Kaiser Soze at the end. This show has 4 times that amount of time to play with. Can you imagine what they would have done if they'd taken just the ideas for all these storylines and actually done something with them in that time allotted? It could have been a masterpiece. It could have been something to say, wow, you think Alien, you think Aliens, you think Alien Earth. Now it's, you think, oh, you know what? Alien Resurrection wasn't that bad. And Romulus is a masterpiece. So before we go on, because there's a little bit more to talk about, I want to catch up on comments. So we're going to do a speed round, and we'll pull over. If anyone has anything that jumps out them, we can definitely talk about it. Okay. So Fading Man, I liked episode 8 because of where they got to. However, the motivations aren't justified. They needed more scenes to show why Wendy feels so screwed over. Feels like a color block with no shades. I like that. It's like A goes to C and skips B. Yep. I think that's what Mark's been alluding to here. I think maybe 10, Jay says, I think maybe 10 to 12 episodes might have served the show better. They crammed too much in, and like the prequels, left a lot of things unresolved. Bill Goodmanson, good old Bill, coming in with a Carter Burke quote. This is so nuts. I mean, listen to what you're saying. It's paranoid delusion. How it's really sad. It's pathetic. That is a running joke between us that I think is going on 20 years of our friendship.
Wow.
The Fading Man says this series is really expensive to make because of CGI and sets, so this is what we got. Yeah. That's I could hear the shrug in that second sentence. Curly is not a necessary character. There's so much fat in here in terms of the cast. Mm-hmm. Not to say that Curly's fat, but you know what I'm saying. Jay says there's a lot to like here. There's a lot of ideas to explore, maybe too many. I'm still defending the show because I'm a fan of all the elements of the universe, but that's a big but, Jay. Fading Man says, me thinks Noah Hawley is cocky. I bet we don't get season 2. I bet you're right.
It's all about this. It depends on how
Yeah,
much they make from it, because
it
if
might
they
be
can
too much to
justify the production to the, I mean, all that,
And
then
they're
it will.
cutting back on expensive stuff left and right now. Just not going forward with it. It's too much money.
Well, and that's fine. I mean, because the amount of money they spent on this show, you probably could have made 6 of the 1979 Alien films, and give it to someone hungry.
And then that's the one problem is they didn't need to. This easily could have been a ship in a bottle story of sorts. They could have been all on the island in a location.
All in the lab. All in the
this
lab.
could have been
You have
lost.
5 interesting aliens. You have the lab. You are figuring out what they do and how everybody reacts with them and what they're capable of. I mean, Star Trek Wrath of Khan is the greatest Star Trek movie, and Khan and Kirk never have a scene together. They're just talking to each other on screens. It can be done.
This could have easily been handled like Lost Season 1, which literally was the same beach and village and rooms sets for the entire first
Except
season.
that was even more expensive because you had to go out on location and shoot on real beaches.
Well,
Here,
yeah,
they
but
just shot in sets and saved themselves.
right, but
all
you know
kinds
what
of problems.
it's something like that though. The story could have just stayed contained
Yes.
right to the complex.
Yeah.
See, I think they missed out on a huge opportunity that when you have the soldiers going into the lab, that they should have done a cabin in the woods moment, and then all of the doors for all the aliens like open up, and each one of them do their thing on the people there, and it's like, let's see what you can do. Let's see. It's like we kind of got a little taste of all these things, but let's see if you guys all work together or not, because obviously there is some sort of hostility and underlying almost familial energy between the eye and the xenomorph that, I mean, we've seen that xenomorphs are supposed to come from the creators and all that stuff, but what is the backstory of the eye? Because the eye freaking hates those xenomorphs, and yet also has a weird way to control them, or I don't know. That I would have liked to have seen way more, or as you guys were saying, put it against it. But it's like, it seems like there's a backstory there that it's like, okay, it's like you guys are cousins or something, and it's like maybe there's like some, Southern, Hatfield McCoy thing going on that I'm getting from this. That
could have been made that greater, even greater scene, Katie, is at the end of it, when they get the things somehow contained or back, they say there was one alien that did not come out. It stayed in its cage. Why? And then they find out that, like, Thorwall in Rear Window, it's staying in the back and not coming to the window when they find the discovered dead dog, because he's the one who killed it. And somehow that alien is smart enough to say, these guys are all just going to kill themselves out by battling all your guys, and somebody's going to come along with a bigger bazooka or a torch or something. I want to be on your side and survive, so I'm going to side with the humans on this, and let's figure that out, because I'm the smartest of these 5 aliens, and I stayed out of that nasty battle. I mean, those kind of things are things that would have blown people's minds in this. And I'm not saying this is a brilliant idea, but it's a better idea than most of the ones we saw here, because it's unexpected, and it's not just treating every single alien as like, oh, all they want to do now is kill because that's their whole thing. It's like, really? There's nobody who's just as smart as we are and goes, what's the long game here?
Or you could have the fact that they capture all the aliens, and the one they can't find, and the soldiers there and all that stuff, and the shoulders are flying away, and it's like, oh, everyone's contained, all that stuff, and then somebody opens up their visor, and it's the eye and the soldier's head, and it got away because I'm using my imagination. Yeah. And then Pedro Pascal comes in, and Grogu, and then rainbows, and
we didn't know. We don't even know if he's under that helmet, Katie. Come on.
No, he's in a voice recording booth. No, Jeff, I like Jeff and Kate. I like both of your ideas. Would it be interesting if all the doors fly open and all the creatures come out, and we think the soldiers are in trouble, but the aliens just start attacking themselves, and the humans just kind of like take cover? Like, this is not our fight. Right.
Or what if it's a Romeo and Juliet thing this whole time, and these aliens are just really sexually frustrated that their lover is right next to them, and all they can do is see it. So that's why they are killing all these people all the time. And then they come together, and it's just a giant alien orgy. That maybe is more for Cinemax in the 80s. I don't know.
Rather than a top 40 song from today ending over the credits.
And the Xenomorph would be a dom.
Noah Hawley hauls out Johnny Mathis's version of "A Time for Us," "A Time for Joy," "A Time for Peace."
And then Chapel Roan's Pink Boney Club plays, and it's amazing.
Pink Boney Club? No.
Pink Boney Club.
No, I think you're onto something there, Katie, because we've got the giant flower and then the Xenomorph whose head looks like okay, let's get back to the comments. As Jay says, as a season finale discussion, this left me very unfulfilled. Wait, the discussion of this finale. Still looking forward to a second season and seeing why can't I control my own mouse? Seeing where things go, but yeah, lol.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Fading Man says the show wasn't a finale. It felt like a mid-season episode.
Yeah,
it did. This is the type of stuff that happens in mid-season.
Yeah.
Miguel says erroneous Romulus. That's another in joke between me and Miguel. Very good.
Funny.
Rusty D says it's super intelligent. The alien feeds on intelligence.
The eye alien, yeah.
Was that, help me out here? I know that it's been established that the eye is intelligent because I think they told us that on the Maginot episode, or maybe it was in the first episode where they were still on the ship. But do we know that it feeds on intelligence? Is that something that's I might have missed that line?
I usually got it that it was just using it. It used intelligent. Yeah. It tried to find intelligent
on the second L in that sentence.
Nice. Sunshine Gigi, cheap followers on Streamboo. Hey, remove the space.
Always Streamboo.
If you remove the space, then who's going to hear me scream? Anyway, all right, we talked about this with the alien communication. No, we never get sick of being Debbie Downers. No, I'm catching
earlier.
up.
He's just going
jumped ahead. Yeah.
Like, give us a
Fading Man, I'm usually on your side, but this episode was kind of a bummer. It was a human lung. Yep.
Yeah, we got that.
Yeah. I love our live fact checking here, even though it's a half hour later. I appreciate it. Rusty D, yeah, I was frustrated with what happened in this project. It seemed like they put half of the mental energy they put in the previous episodes that were really good. That's definitely a perspective. I love Midge the eyeball.
Is it called Midge? I like that.
It's Midge now. She used speakers around the island. Good catch. That's conjecture.
They never actually say it, but I mean, you could.
They have alerts going off and stuff, so maybe she used that. But yeah, one thing that really bothers me is how quickly Wendy turned against her brother. That is totally unjustified. Family doesn't do that instantly. True, but hey, maybe they're not family anymore. That's something you could explore.
A little bit more connected to the humans, knowing that she's only been a synth for a couple of weeks.
Well, the thing is, I mean, the Fading Man makes an excellent point, and it's what threw me off too, is the fact that she literally goes on that one mission to save her brother. I mean, she's driven to protect her brother for all of the other episodes, and he does the one thing, and that's the thing that turns.
And she goes, "What did you do?" It's like, I stopped somebody from killing people needlessly. They're just trying to round you up. That's why, bitch. I mean, come on. I just love the fact that all these guards and all these security people are just expendable. Okay, they're not soldiers. They're just security, and they all just deserve to have their jaws ripped off because, Nibs can't contain her anger at being erased. That isn't the guards' problem, and they're on orders. It's ridiculous. Again, I know we aren't really supposed to ever mourn the red shirts, but at this point in science fiction, when there's that many red shirts, it's a problem.
Well, and it's also not really established her protective instinct on most of the other synths because they don't, even with the Nibs part, she didn't like what happened to her and she came along. But at the same time, we didn't get enough establishment to get the real dynamic between our kids, because they all seem to be, like kids who go to school. Your friends on playground, but everybody then went to their own homes and did their own thing, and you'd never really feel like, until the end, and then suddenly everybody's listening to Wendy. You know, it's
Well,
just-
The Fady Man is right
thing
about that.
is-
They screwed up the whole family connection. That's the whole reason Joe's there.
Yep.
But it's also the fact that Wendy and Joe have been separated. It's been longer than a few weeks. They've been separated for years. And then
Yeah.
she's been with the kids before they
But
turned
it didn't stop the
innocent.
first 4 episodes from establishing that Wendy's primary relationship is with Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they did have that flashback where she was the letter reading.
Yeah.
Very impactful. Let's see. Rusty D says, "Oh, good point. The other girl turned berserk and was going to kill everyone, and then he stunned
you.
her,
Yeah.
and she didn't like that." Nibs
was
rocks.
okay.
She's psycho.
It was
Yep.
okay. So I guess it was okay to stun her.
Well,
Nibs
You-
at
you
least
can't-
out of
you
our
can get-
synth
She
kids.
gets out of bed the next morning or the next hour, but that girl without the jaw, she's not doing much talking.
it was a guy. The guy,
Oh,
the guy
God.
got.
She
his-
just needed a hot.
Also,
that's your
Nibs-
missing episode.
Nib's face too when Wendy told her to get Cynthia, and she's like, "Okay." It's like you don't remember, you're not supposed to remember what had happened before when you went totally batshit
Yeah.
and all that stuff. And then when she has that like crazy in her eyes, it's like, dude, what is wrong with you?
It's they could have done so much with that whole like mind wiping thing, and also earlier on when they were talking about how these synths work, they talk about they couldn't include their full range of emotions because they're still working that out, so they kind of calibrated them. I don't know who's doing the calibration, but yeah, Fady Man was right. Nibs is psycho, and with Wendy screaming, "What did you do?" Like, this is them with their emotions turned down. I don't get it. I would describe this show as avant-garde. Is that French for dumb? Sorry. Jay, I personally would have liked to see more exploration of the philosophy and ideas behind androids. Yes, exactly.
Yes,
That's what
totally.
the alien universe, and even if you want to pay homage to Blade Runner, which is fine, there's room for the action and the horror and also philosophy and bigger conversations. It doesn't have to be one or the other, and it certainly doesn't have to be this sloppy. So I think we're all there with you. Synths and biohumans, so much left on the table. Yep. Fargo is great because it had great character development. Doesn't seem like the same showrunner, and that's the shame, because Fading Man, have sworn off watching Noah Hawley projects, which I know isn't fair because people say that Fargo is great, but this show is so bad that I just can't trust anybody.
Wait, have you not seen any Fargos?
Not past the Coen Brothers movie. No, I don't watch a lot of TV unless it's in the 90 Day Fiance television universe.
So the last season, here's the thing, despite what you've thought about Alien Earth and all that stuff, that last season with Juno Tempo and John Hamm, they're all separate. You don't have to follow along the different seasons. You need to watch that, Ian, because honestly, that is
seasons are really
yeah,
good too.
that is a fantastic season
Yeah.
of television. Honestly,
I am currently unemployed, and I still do not have time for all of the things I need to do in a day. So much like Breaking Bad and The Sopranos and about 90 other series, I will watch them all when I retire. That is my promise to you. I will say this show did give us some pretty cool new alien species, also things I wish I spent more time exploring, like the science behind them, their habits. Yep,
Yes.
that we were talking about that before. Eyeball is brilliant, totally interesting. Yep. The Eye Midge did more exciting stuff in previous episodes than the finale, like what the WTF. Yeah, I did like when it was trying to get into Joe and you saw its little elastic rubbery tentacles like sucking onto his body. It almost looked like it was trying to get inside of his skin. That was kind of interesting.
little
But then Wendy
octopus
just
spider.
right, but then Wendy just kicked it across the room and knocked it out for a couple of seconds. And it was like, we haven't
Why
even
was she
talked
being mean to the eyeball? What did you do?
because
What
it was
was it?
attacking. It
It
was
was
attacking her
Joe.
brother.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
see, now Joe's the best guy again. It's like,
Jeff, they needed her to care for a couple of minutes, and so that's what they did.
She could be mad, but she'll never want him to die.
Yeah, we'll see about that. It depends on if he crosses the line. Such great potential. We don't even get a final boss power move. And you know what? That's the other thing. The big revelation of Adam, our Alfred the henchman guy, who it's just like with David in Alien Covenant with Billy Crudup's character, like leading him down to that place and saying, "Hey, stick your face over this egg."
Yeah.
I felt the same way when Adam is talking to Joe. He's like, "Yeah, boy wants to see you. Come over to this room." And then he goes in there, and there's the open sheep's cage, and he's like, "Well, what's going on here?" No, just completely dumb. And also, you reveal that Adam is finally that he's a synth, and then Wendy stops him immediately using like psychic Neo powers or like Jean Grey.
Because he was in the network. He was connected to the network, and so
yeah.
she was, you know.
I get the logic of it. The logic, quote unquote, makes sense according to the rules of the show. But in terms of like, it's kind of like the Kirsch Morrow fight. It's like, oh man, this is a huge revelation. Wait, he's just frozen and he's going to stay like that for the rest of the episode. Oh, moving on. You guys are not giving any credit for the Eye and other interesting aliens. You're not giving any credit for trying something new. Well,
that's
I mean,
half an hour ago, Fady, man. Where have you been? Oh,
No, we're catching up. We're catching up on the comments.
It's a comment from half an hour ago.
We're
We've
catching
certainly
up.
given them credit since then.
Well, and I will say, I'm not giving them credit for what the Eye did in this episode because it has been a build-up almost since the first episode. We're introduced to the thing and told it's intelligent. Like, oh my God, what's going to happen when this thing gets inside someone? You'll find out in 3 years. No, that doesn't cut it. Let's see. Great effects for a TV show. I'll agree.
Yeah.
Although I'm with a lot of the commenters on this this series in general. The Xenomorph should not spend that much time in direct sunlight because it looks like bratwurst.
It looks brown, right?
It is brown. It's brown, yeah.
And it just doesn't look as impressive. It doesn't look scary. Shadow is a big aid to that thing being an effective villain or creature. Jay says that poor sheep had some stamina though, right? Poor thing stood on all fours for like the last 4 episodes. Never saw it once rest until the eye plopped out.
Then it just goes bing.
Well, it kept bumping its head against a thing too. It's like that poor sheep. Yeah. Luckily, it's dead. I mean, let's be honest. Once the eye gets in there, it takes over the brain. You're done.
And it did take that giant crap too in the last episode.
Yes.
Fading Man says, totally agree with Mark the Movie Man, but I liked it better than him. Soundtrack is excellent. I bought it on iTunes. All right. Problem is a lot of the show doesn't feel organic. It feels manufactured, much like the synths. Ooh, have we gotten it all wrong? Is this thematic genius at play?
So deep.
Yeah. Still like it. All right. Rusty D says, it's a theory running around.
The alien eating intelligent brains. The eye alien.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for clarifying that. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If that had been officially established, like you could even have that as a line on the Maginot episode where they say it's highly intelligent. And during our studies of the last 65 years we've been out here poking at this thing, we found that it feeds on the intelligence of its host. That's why it's extremely dangerous and can never get out of its cage or something. So there you go. Wendy turning on her brother, another idea that could have been explored further as she's losing her humanity now that she is no longer in a human body. Adam is like Curly, totally unnecessary. And I felt like Wendy stopping Adam was a copy of the Matrix. Blah. Yeah. You know, I like the Adam character in this episode only because they don't come out and say it. They imply it heavily that he is the android that was the boy built when he was 6 that killed his father.
The first. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the first.
And what I like is that, again, this goes back to that kind of usual suspects thing of something that's been we've been watching this since the beginning, and we don't think much of them except this like big corporate stooge who's cold-hearted and very good at saying like cold, harsh lines. But then you just see him in a different light. Where you're like, oh, this guy he's not only created by Boy as a child, but he also his first like act of being alive was to murder Boy's father and be the face of this company. That's fascinating. That's an entire series itself. I think the way the Eye sustains itself, says Jay Vasquez, is by moving from host to host and just living in that body until it's time to move on to a new one. We saw that sheep eating. I'm assuming it drank water. And that's another question is like, does if the body is dead, which I guess we'll find out when we see how it deals with Arthur, is the alien able to revive it? Is it like a zombie in that it keeps going until the body gives out, or does it have its own kind of powers to keep it artificially going?
And that's where they wasted the Imagino episode. They could have used the ship episode to explain our other 5 aliens, explore that rather than explore the relationships of people that are going to die. We don't care if the captain and the other person are cheating or having sex down in the hold. We don't need to see that. What they could have done with that episode is had them discuss have some of the crew discuss, should we really be doing this or not, as they're learning about these aliens, or we get a little summary of these aliens as they go on. And then you still can do your little sabotage subplot as well to hook it back to Prodigy.
Mark, what year is it on their trip back? 30? Year 40? They haven't discovered anything about the aliens beforehand to be able to have that downloaded for the people who are going to inherit them and put them in cages on the island. It's a wasted opportunity. It's like, it's so long, and that's what they did in Alien. It was really far out in space. So you've had these species on your vessel for at least 20 years, and you know nothing about them, or there's no reference to any of the findings about them being usable by the people on the in the new lab on the island. They're all playing it like it's start over time. It's ridiculous.
Well, I think that's a great point, Jeff. And I think I saw there was a timeline somewhere talking about what year this is in their mission. It's almost towards the end. It's like they've been out there. I think it's a 65-year mission, and they're like on year 60 or something like that. They're almost home. But to your point, going out there and retrieving the species is one thing. But you're right; they would have been in constant communication back home, like a status of, especially like, hey, we've lost half the crew trying to get these things. And Weyland-Yutani would probably be like, do you need us to send someone else out there, or, what? Because they're not going to wait 6.5 decades to find out what happened. But Mark, to your point, now that episode 8 has come and gone, it's clear to me that the Maginot episode is completely unnecessary. The only thing we got out of it was the sabotage angle. And even that was unnecessary because you take the sabotage part out of it. What do you have? You've got a ship that's flying through space. Aliens got loose or something blew up, and now it's on a collision course for Earth, and it happens to blow up or land on Prodigy City. What's the difference? And as we established a few weeks ago during the whole arbitration hearing, no one brings up the fact that Weyland-Yutani knows that Boy had hired the saboteur. So if you're literally not going to do anything with the sabotage plot line, then why introduce it? You take that hour of television and you clean up a lot of these plot holes. That's the great thing about retrospect, is there are so many ideas that are introduced just as, this is going to be really important, and then it comes to nothing. Like, remember when Nibs thought she was pregnant?
Yeah.
What was that about? I was thinking, can an alien species impregnate a synth? Does she, where did this come from? Is she lying? No, all they did was, she thinks she's pregnant and she just attacked her therapist, so we're going to wipe her mind. And then the moment she wakes up, as we established, Wendy's there to say, hey, why are you acting so funny? I think they've wiped your mind. And then she goes crazy again, thus repeating or renewing the impetus to wipe her mind again, which they don't actually do. Even though have complete audio, visual, and on-off capabilities with these things, they never exercise them during the show, except when they need to for 2 minutes of television. We're almost at an hour and a half here, gang. So I want to wrap this up. Do we have any final thoughts, like brief overview of Alien Earth as a series? And the biggest question, if and when this gets renewed, are we going to come back here? I'm going to put this to a vote. Katie, go first.
I think this is a show that brings up intelligence so much yet shows us the true ignorance in multiple episodes, especially as was my major factor in the dumbest crew in space, that that all those people, when they got those aliens, I came to realize on the, like, we're the smart ones. All the truly intelligent crew members on that ship died. But yeah, it's like a lot of dumb mistakes with, although they keep talking about how so many people are geniuses and all that stuff. And I wish it should have been 2 more episodes. But even then, I don't know. I don't know. I do feel like there is an episode that's missing, that or they tried to squish stuff in, it didn't do. I think it needs to have a wrap up. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of a mess.
If Mr. Hawley, by not re-upping for season 2, asks you to use your imagination to fill in the rest of the story, will you be satisfied with that?
Yes.
Okay.
I will have Pedro Pascal on a magical winged unicorn saving the day, and that'll be using my imagination, because no, that's dumb. I don't know. I would have liked, there's way more questions than I think I'll ever get answers to. And again, I'll stick with my first thing. This should have been a cliffhanger, and I just think they just jumped off the cliff.
Fair enough. Mark.
Yeah, I mean, wasted potential. There's a lot of cool ideas that I liked that they introduced. It is unfortunate that they either did not feel confident enough to follow through with those, or just felt like we got to get to the next idea now, rather than explore any one of the things we've mentioned here, either on previous episodes, in this, in this episode, or even the fine folks in the chat have brought up some good points. I mean, any one of these ideas is almost a season in itself of 8 episodes, or at least 4. This does feel like, this feels, and that's what's frustrating. And what's also frustrating is this whole series only works if you don't do aliens.
How do you mean?
If you don't do aliens, the series, at least for the events that are happening and what they're discovering and everything else, works. If you do aliens, you literally have a scene in there where she's trying to describe what happened on the Nostromo, and she's got corporate folks who are from Weyland-Yutani.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not, these aren't low-level folks. These are in the know folks we know because of Burke, because he knows of the alien. And they say the events that are happening on this island, you're telling me that the crashed ship and whatnot, they covered that up that good to where you have the one lady, you recall, you describe something that has never been recorded in 186 of our current planets. And yet a lot of people know about the Xenomorph.
What they're going to do, Mark, is they're going to revisit this at some point with another mid-quill sequel to Aliens, and it's going to turn out that person was lying.
Well, yeah,
or something. Because
and I get that, but I'm just saying that she's very honest in her questioning.
I don't get me wrong. I agree. It's totally dumb, and it's again with these prequels and midquels and things, it keeps messing with the lore that doesn't need to be messed with. Because at this point, I have no confidence that they could bring this right up to the doorstep of even Alien, which is this is 2 years before that. So yeah, it's a puzzlement. Jeff, final thoughts.
No.
No. Just no. Okay. So that is that no for just your season wrap up, and will you come back for season 2?
If maybe, yeah, I think that's my answer for both. I was very disappointed in the show. A lot of good ideas squandered. I don't think they appreciate the material. I think there is a feeling in the Alien franchise by almost every filmmaker that rather than be about ideas and species, it becomes about killing. Like it's it's a boogeyman in space. And I think it's boring. I think they've squandered that over the decades of Alien by and large. And I thought if they moved this into the future, they had the opportunity to not only look at this alien, but other aliens and figure out, what do they do? What do they think of us? Can they get along? What is the integration situation? What are they being even used for? What are we studying and finding out in 30 years on a spaceship when nobody knows that, oh, maybe we shouldn't send the synth in to feed him because the thing's eating scrap metal. My thinking is that seeing what I saw in this first season, I would not watch a second season.
Okay. That breaks my heart, Jeff, because if I said we're coming back for season 2, whenever that is, and I asked really nicely of all of you. No, I haven't even made up my mind.
You've got 3 years to change my mind. So
look, I think you guys are like leaving out the fact of how bountiful it is to do a hate watch on a series. Like I did that with As Good as It Gets.
Honestly,
it's just
Katie,
every episode of season
there
1.
Are a lot of good series.
Hate watch every single episode of season 1 of
Let's
talk about better series.
Let's talk about better series. There's a lot of great ones out there that we could be talking about doing as good a work, if not better than television. That's what I would suggest in the 3 years we figure out what to talk about.
I'd come back and I'd watch the first episode of season 2. I would watch the first episode of season 2 and see what they do.
Put it on probation. I like that.
And put it on probation. And if we don't see something meaty or something, if we just see more of the same of these random, brainstorming board brought to life, then no, I'm going to drop off because, it happened to me with Walking Dead. I dropped off of Walking Dead after a while because I'm like, I am tired of the rinse, wash, repeat after 8 seasons.
You made it 8 seasons. Wow.
I made it 7 or 8, whatever season.
After 6.
Or 6 or 7, whenever the war kicked off and they were betrayed by the garbage people, whenever that was, that's when I left. And I didn't miss it at all. And that's the thing with this is there's nothing in this series, except for maybe as we've mentioned, the eyeball alien, that I will miss. There's no dangling participle that says, man, I've got to see where this goes. Nothing, except I would love a spinoff show that shows the eye alien and what it does.
Yes.
But they're not interested in that. They're not really interested in that, guys. What they're interested in is a monster movie.
Right. And okay. And if you want to do that,
every movie, that's why they did Alien versus Predator, because they ran out of ideas to do with the alien. The sense that, wait a minute, what if we actually looked at species? I mean, whether it's Star Trek, Battlestar Galactica, hell, even Star Wars, we've got all these species going around and different people living together in a galaxy and stuff. And even, look at Guardians of the Galaxy and some of those things. Alien, after the first movie, James Cameron was brilliant. It's like, let's fight these things. Let's not have them all be sitting ducks. It doesn't have to be and then there were none. Let's have them fight back. And after that, it just became a monster movie.
Yeah,
it's all been monsters. And then what's the last episode? The real monsters. You've got a show about ideas, and you'd rather make it about monsters.
Well, on top of that, a lot of the kind of themes of this series were already sketched out in Alien Resurrection. I mean, yes, that show takes place hundreds of years in the future of this universe, but it came out almost 30 years ago. And there's nothing in here, I think, that tops the scene where they go into that lab and they find all the Ripley variants, and they're all very kind of horrifying and sad. This series is not kind of top that, which is unfortunately. I like the idea of doing a spin-off movie about the eye, kind of like Marcel the Shell with shoes on, but horrifying.
Season 2, episode 1, origin story of the eye, and then at the end you have how it got caught, all that stuff, and then it shows Arthur with the eye, so it's back to that.
Get out of this timeline. Get out of this timeline. Venture 30 years, 50 years into the future where humans are using the xenomorph and other aliens in their war. There's a new corporate war.
That's the whole reason they wanted to bring it back anyhow, and
Yeah.
we've never seen them do that. In 40 years, we've never gotten to the actual plot point from the first Alien on why they were doing this in the first place.
Well, and I'll say that's kind of an interesting idea, but I don't know if it would work. And this is a prejudice, having read the Aliens comics from the 90s, because they did that storyline where they brought them to Earth, and they had this maniacal military general who had been training different Xenos to like fight the ones that infested the Earth, and it didn't turn out so well for him. Would be great to see adapted for like a single movie, but I as with a lot of these legacy properties, I think you just let them die, let people enjoy the old stuff, and then just give people money to create new stuff. But perhaps that's the problem, is there's just nothing new under the sun anymore. All right, so we got a few final thoughts here. Jay says, final thoughts. I do want a season 2, but I'm frustrated. Wasted potential. This is what we traded David and the engineer story for.
I keep saying creator, it's the engineer.
Off topic, says YRN, but are we going to get an Academia Giallo episode before the end of this month? No, because that is an every other month series. This next week, we're going to have an episode of Hammerland, Escape from Hammerland, which we recorded with Dr. AC a few days ago. But yes, Academia Giallo will be back in October, just in time for spooky season. Thank you for asking. LV426, not a big fan of the show. I feel everything was underdone. I hope you're not talking about this live stream and are in fact talking about Alien Earth. No, it's funny. I just found out after decades of wondering what the LV stands for in that planet designation. Does anyone else know? LV stands for life viable.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's see. The alien was shown poorly both in design and characteristics. It looked like a man in a suit and behaved like a dog. We love T.O. Sellis. They stole the show from the Xeno. Yes.
It is a man in a suit who's from Australia and is very handsome.
Outside the suit, I imagine you're saying.
Yes, outside
inside the suit, he looks like a kielbasa.
Yeah.
You guys will all be back. Who are you kidding? And you'll be complaining all the way. You know, Fading Man, I appreciate your faith in us as commentators and critics. And I think we will be back. We're going to Arnold this damn thing.
What's funny? What is funny is that I have usually have the reputation of being soft on films. You just ask my boys, or soft on product in general. And I really tried with this series, but even me, it couldn't win me over at the end to where I was like, you can do a series like this. And I'll shut up. I'm sorry. But I'm just saying is that you could do a series like this with multiple threads. We've seen it in the past in a limited series. I will bring up Heroes. If you look at Heroes has like 6 or 7 different characters it deals with. And over the course of that shorter mini-series season that they did, they brought it all together. They had a focus and they brought it all together, yet you still manage to learn about each of those characters and care or hate them, and it brought it together and cross storylines. You can do it. They did too much in this. They really tried to do too much.
2 things, and then we'll wrap this up. But building on something Mark said, and this is something Jeff and I talked about the other day, actually. With Heroes and also Veronica Mars, they were both on the air at the same time. Both excellent first couple of seasons. And then we had the writers' strikes. Mm-hmm. And the problem was that the writers and the creators didn't know from week to week, literally, if they were going to have jobs and have a show to come back to. Mm-hmm. So the third seasons of both of those shows are complete messes. They got rid of the overarching storylines and went right to lame villain of the week kind of things. And all the characters become diluted. But what I was talking to Jeff about the other day is there's really no excuse for this show and a lot of streaming shows where they come back after 2 to 3 years. They don't plan to have, okay, we've got a season 1, we're going to have season 2 coming out next year. Back in the old days, the olden times, you used to have hour-long TV dramas that would have 24 episodes, like a TV show called 24. They would come out regularly, week after week, for most of the year, take off for like football and World Series and all that stuff and some holidays. But you still had 24 episodes of an hour-long television, which would come back every single season. Why can't we do that anymore? And those had filler episodes. Right now, we've got 8 episodes of a TV series, and we have to wait, half a decade for it to find out if it's even going to be coming back. And when it does come back, I mean, can you imagine how old Boy Cavalier is going to look? I mean, he's supposed to be like a 20-year-old genius or whatever it is. He's going to be like Robert Pattinson by the time Batman 2 comes out.
Look at Stranger Things. Look at Stranger Things as a prime example. What the time frame's supposed to be within the world of Stranger Things and the cast. I mean, they're going to be 30 years old if they try to do a season 6.
They're going to
Bobby
do.
Brown's a mom.
And they're starting to lose audience because of that, because people aren't investing in it. They gave the audience on Wednesday was not near, I think it was half of what it was when it first ran. It was almost 3 years before they brought it back. It's like, you just have to plan better, to your point, Ian. I think that's as insulting to the audience as not understanding or appreciating the original IP of these things. In this day and age where everything is so quick and fast and we're all suffering from attention deficit and stuff, to wait that long on a series, it's ridiculous. Commit these actors, commit these writers. This is your job. That's what it was in the old days of television. You had 3 months off, and if you could sneak in a movie or a Broadway play or even a vacation, good for you, but you were back. And you know what? Back in the days of the 80s, when they had like Dynasty in Dallas, those shows went to 28, 29, 30 episodes because they were so popular. It's just ridiculous. It may be streaming, it's different, but 3-year lag time is unacceptable. And audiences are starting to reject it because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I want more than 8 episodes a season of Alien Earth, but it would be at least nice to be able to say, okay, we'll come back next year to see how this thing wraps up, and if it's worth, could things get turned around? Maybe if there's a new showrunner, they bring someone in besides Noah Hawley. But we're not going to know for a while. All right, last bit, and then we're going to get out of here. Fading Man says, I don't mind your complaints. You guys have thoughtful videos. Well, thank you, Fading Man. And thank you to Jay and YRN and LV426 and Miguel and Bill and everyone else who's watched and or commented not only tonight, but throughout this series. It's been really engaging getting to know you folks through the chat and stimulating our discussions. So I really do appreciate it. And yes, I'm calling it, assuming this show is still a thing whenever Alien Earth Season 2 comes back. Oh, nice Xeno, Katie. We'll be back here discussing it, or at least putting it on probation, as Mark has helpfully suggested. Jay says, thanks again for the coverage and discussions. Appreciate you guys and what you do. Have a good night. You too, Jay. Thank you.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Jay.
And yeah, I'm going to let everyone else get out of here, but not before thanking my wonderful friends and panelists and Earth's Mightiest Critics. I am Ian Simmons of Kicking the Seat, Katie Glidewell, the blonde in front, Jeff York, the establishing shot and pipeline artist, and Mark the Movie Man Krawcheck of Special Mark Productions and the Spoiler Room podcast. In the immortal words of Jeff York, we have had enough of this show, and we're going to get out of here. So please, support all of Earth's Mightiest Critics. Their information is down below, along with an interview, the video interview with Noah Hawley, which will answer all your questions about this series, mostly in terms of what happened to the quality. For example, fun fact, they no longer use outlines in the writer's room over at Hulu. That's something I found out, and it makes this show make a lot more sense. But check that out down below. Please support all of us in our creative endeavors. If you like this show, this live stream, please like, subscribe, and all that business. Ring the bell for notifications. And until next time, whenever that is, whatever that is, this has been Say No More Xenomorph. We are going to say no more and wish you a lovely, lovely evening.